Welcome to this week's wrap-up. Let's talk a little about what I've been up to. I got creative with lighting in the studio. I did a series of body landscapes using selective lighting, and those are up on SnapChick's.com now. For the VIPs, I also made a video detailing how I did the shoot, and that's on SnapChick's.com too. Here's a snippet of the video. As for the room, I had it very, very dark. I made it as dark as I could. And I had my Flora light on full power, and I've got the grid on it. You can kind of see that here, so that the light would come onto me and not spill onto my black backdrop that I had behind me, because I didn't want there to be anything in the picture other than me. I also did a video for everyone on how I handle my workflow from the time I'm done shooting to the time the photos are ready to go for the client. Or my website, depending on what I'm doing. Here's a link to that video. I've also messed around with a new set of filters. Two sets actually, by Nick. They are Color Effects Pro 3 and Silver Effects Pro 2. I used to use a filter set in Photoshop that I absolutely adored. However, I kind of made it a personal goal since I started using Aperture to get better at recreating the looks that I love on my own, using the individual adjustments. And I have gotten better at it, but it's so nice to just use the filters sometimes. Especially these Nick filters, they are super customizable. I did a shoot where I edited all the photos using the Nick filters. I posted these images on SnapChick's.com in multiple parts, and I also made a video for the VIPs on the mechanics of the shoot. Here's a peek at that video. Let's talk about my setup using this little mini studio that I made. This Barbie is me. I was in the studio with a white backdrop. I used my Alien Bees strobes with umbrellas, like you see here. There's one shoot through and one reflector. Let's talk about the homework from this past week. I asked you to create a series of some sort. I gave you this example that I created. Let's take a look at a few of that you posted. Alex Collins posted this series. I love the classic pencils like this. I love writing with them, and I really like this series of photos. It's very cool. Christopher McGregor posted this series. It is his eldest daughter, just being herself. He used his Nikon D7000 and a Sigma 50mm f1.4 EXDG lens. I've got to wonder what's going on in her head. She looks like a lot of fun. Dean Schroeder posted this series of Chris, a very animated piano player. This was shot with a Canon 7D and a Canon 580 EX2 attached, which acted as a wireless master to a 430 EX2 being held high and to the camera's left. He had the camera set to manual at ISO 800. This series of photos makes me want to see this guy perform, so I hope he uses this as an advertisement. Heidi Hoff posted this series of a 2-year-old eating a raspberry. She used her Canon T3i to take it. It's pretty funny to see the girl's expressions. I'm just not sure if she likes the raspberry or not, or if maybe she's just a little annoyed to be disturbed while she's eating the raspberry. In any case, it's definitely another entertaining set of photos. Let's talk about a couple questions I've gotten recently. Simon asked me about batteries for his SB900 speedlights. I answered the question on Facebook, but I'll answer it again here because I'm in love with my batteries. I really like the Sanyo Eneloop rechargeable batteries. I have the AA's in my SB800s, and I have some AAA's for some other stuff too. They just last a long time while they're in use, but the big thing for me is that they hold their shelf life. They really hold their charge for a long time. It makes life easier for me before a big shoot because I can charge them a day or two prior and be confident that they'll still be at full charge for me when I need them. And frankly, I could probably charge them days in advance, but I'm kind of the better safe than sorry camp, so I only let them sit for a day or so before I need them. But I just can't say that about any other batteries I've tried. I have purchased mine on Amazon.com, and I've gotten packs with the charger included, so I've got a couple chargers with tons of batteries. It's nice, I would suggest them. Thomas asked me for suggestions on UV filters to protect his lenses. I do use filters on my lenses for protection. I take my cameras everywhere. I even hike with them, so I like to have the protection of an extra layer of glass. You can spend a little or a lot on these filters, and most of the time the difference between low cost and high cost is the quality of the coating on the filter. I go for the low end for just inexpensive protection. One thing to think about though is that sometimes you'll want to take the filter off, especially if you'll be shooting toward a bright light like the sun. Even the more expensive filters can give unwanted lens flare or ghosting in this situation. I remove them in the studio a lot, and sometimes when I'm out in the wild too. The light can just do funny things with your filter and even your lens itself depending on the angle. You might notice some vignetting or flare or ghosting, or just taking off the filter for a few shots will take care of it though. Now for the news. After lots of rumors and a formal denial, Nikon is introducing a couple of mirrorless interchangeable lens cameras, both for less than $1,000. Prior to this big announcement, Nikon and Canon, which are the two biggest camera companies, hadn't done anything in this category, which in itself is still pretty new. The companies that are making these each call it something else, sort of. Nikon is calling it the Nikon One system. Olympus and Panasonic are both using the Micro Four Thirds standard. Sony has their NEX series, and Samsung is getting in the game with what they call NX. Pentax also has, they have a new Q standard, but it uses a very small sensor. A mirrorless interchangeable lens camera, for those of you that don't know yet, is somewhere between a compact point and shoot and a DSLR. They're compact bodies with large sensors, usually, and interchangeable lenses. Now, I don't actually have any of these cameras, but I do find them interesting. Since, I have quite the arsenal of Nikon DSLR equipment, I just haven't been able to justify the cost of an added system. I like all my things to work together too, so adding a new system that isn't going to work with my current system, I just don't know, it might seem confusing to me. I do think that a mirrorless interchangeable lens camera is a great option though for people who don't want to spend the money on DSLRs and lenses, but want more than a point and shoot. Now, for my favorite news item of the day. The ACLU has published a guide to photographers' rights in the US. You can get to it by going to aclu.org. You might have to search for it though. It's called Know Your Rights, Photographers. I don't know about any of you, but I've been told by loads of people that I can't take photographs of something when I've been completely in my rights to take photographs. I've read many photographer stories of similar experiences, some even including the police. I haven't had run-ins with police, but I've read about a lot of people, who have, and I know that there's kind of a fuzzy line here. The police and security officers and store clerks, they're all just simply trying to do their job. But when it comes to the police, I think we can all understand why they might be wary of someone taking photos in some somewhat sensitive areas, in our post 9/11 world. However, I think it's important for photographers, and anyone really, to know their rights and be able to discuss those rights with anyone that might try to infringe upon them. Because, let's face it, I'm a goody two-shoes and I like to follow the rules, but I also don't want someone telling me that I'm not allowed to do something when I actually am. Let's talk about next week's homework. Like I said earlier, I did a bunch of body landscapes recently. Here's one of them. So for the homework this week, there will be a similar theme, the body. You can do a body landscape, you can do something with macro, there's all kinds of things you can do. Post them on my Facebook page. If you want to end up in my next weekly wrap-up, here are the rules though. You gotta say homework or body in the description so I know it's okay to use it. And you've got to actually upload it to Facebook, because Flickr accounts and those like it are great, but I can't easily pull the photo out to keep it or to put it in my video. And keep it clean, people. Well, mostly clean. I just don't want any close-ups of your naughty bits. As for the upcoming weeks, I have a ton planned. Actually, I'm pretty sure I've planned too much. We'll see how much I can get through. Let's talk about what's at the top of my list though. I'm headed to the Grand Canyon this weekend. Yay! I love the Grand Canyon. I always take tons of photos, so I'm sure I'll share a few with y'all next week. I will also be posting a video answering another common question I get. What do I need to get me started in photography? I get that question a lot, so let's see. I'll certainly be experimenting a bit in the studio, but I haven't quite decided with what yet. Let me know if you guys have any ideas. So, be on the lookout on SnapChick.com or my Facebook page for all this stuff that's coming up. And let me know if you have any questions, and I'll talk to you later.